kullanış kafadaysa abi bir teknik falan da yani yakındır pratik.
Ama dünden bugüne hiçbirinin ülkesi çıkmıyor.
Elektrikleri kapıyı açıyorsunuz. Tamam. Sıkıntı yok. Tamam. Sorun değil.
Daha farklı hisler verebiliyoruz. Bir onun
Doktora da ne yapıyorsun? Doktora da
ya bunun cihaz sektörüyle beraber çalışıyorum. İşte insan bilgisayar işbirliği, biraz inovatif araçların konusuna yakın. İşte onda
Bu bittikten sonra 10 saniye açıyorum.
I will welcome to you. I will make a very short opening speech. Dear participants and distinguished guests, on behalf of the organizing institute, Graduate School of Science and Engineering of Işık University, I would like to express our welcome and sincere thanks to all of you who are here for the Eurasia Graphics 2012 International Workshop on Computer Graphics, Animation and Gaming Technologies. As you know, this field, that is computer graphics, animation and gaming technologies, is one of the most rapid developing research and application areas in the last 2 decades in the world. It is also one of the topmost 8 strategic research and technology fields of Turkey. This is declared in the 2003 and 23 strategy document of Turkish Scientific and Technological Research Council, in short, TÜBİTAK. On the other hand, there are more than 50 small and mid-scale Turkish companies working in this area. However, there are only 4 graduate-level programs on computer graphics, animation, and gaming technology in Turkish universities. One of these is in Middle East Technical University, co-organizer of this workshop. The Işık University is planning to start both undergraduate and graduate programs on computer graphics and animation in this fall term. Right now, the programs are in approval of Turkish Higher Education Council. We believe that there is a solid potential and need for people in this field to come together in such a meeting in Turkey and countries around in every year or in every 2 years. There are large-scale meetings on computer graphics in different regions of the world, such as SIGGRAPH and Eurographics. This workshop, that is Eurasia Graphics, aims to bring together researchers, practitioners, students, and the industry working in the field of computer graphics to exchange ideas and experiences and present the latest findings in a friendly and collaborative setting. Eurasia Graphics will be organized in every year in different places in Turkey and the countries around. This is the first Eurasia Graphics workshop. I would like to thank all of the members of the organizing and program committees, PR office and the Information Processing Center of Işık University, and all others who contributed to the organization of this workshop. Thank you for your attention. The audience are in general from Turkey, so we would like to also do this explanation, this speech in Turkish. Hepinize hoş geldiniz demek istiyorum. Benim adım Mustafa Karaman. Ben Işık Üniversitesi Fen Bilimleri Enstitüsü Müdürüyüm. Bildiğiniz gibi grafik animasyon ve oyun teknolojisi son 20 yılda dünyada hızla gelişen, çok hızlı gelişen alanlardan bir tanesi. Türkiye'de de aslında bu hükümetin 2003'teki çalışmasıyla, TÜBİTAK aracılığıyla yaptığı çalışmada adı da 2003-2023 vizyon belgesi olarak hazırlandı. Bu belgede de 8 tane stratejik teknoloji alanı belirlendi. Bunlardan bir tanesi içerisinde yer alan bir konu bu. Bu bağlamda bakıldığında bunların eylem adımlarında da yine bu konulara hem yatırım yapılıyor hem de teşvikler veriliyor. Şirketler piyasaya baktığımızda piyasada küçük ve orta ölçekli bizim belirlediğimize göre 60 kadar şirket var. Doğrudan animasyon ve oyun teknolojileriyle çalışan. Maalesef üniversitelerde sadece 4 üniversitede bu alana yönelik olarak lisansüstü program var. Bunlardan bir tanesi bildiğiniz gibi Orta Doğu Teknik Üniversitesi Bilgisayar Mühendisliği'nde. Biz Işık Üniversitesi olarak bizde böyle bir program olmamasına rağmen bu organizasyon içerisinde yer almamızın şöyle bir şeyi var. Biz bu alanın çok gelişmekte olduğunu görerekten hem lisans hem de lisans düzeyinde program başlatmak için YÖK'e başvurumuzu yaptık. Kabul gelmesi durumunda güz dönemi itibariyle lisans ve lisans üstünde bu computer graphics animasyon konusunda öğretime başlayacağız. Tabii bu alanı Türkiye'de yaygınlaştırmak için hem endüstrideki bu firmalarla hem de üniversitelerde öğretim programlarının etkinliğini arttırmak için bir dizi bu tür toplantılar organize etme ihtiyacı var. Biz bu ihtiyacı görüp bununla ilgili bir çalışma başlatmak üzere Orta Doğu Teknik Üniversitesi'nden arkadaşımız Veysi İşler Hoca ve Erdem Taylan da bu sektörün içerisinde olan bir arkadaşımız. Bu çalışmayı başlattık. Bundan önce de bir takım bu alanda etkinlikler düzenledik. Bu çalışma bizim planlamamıza göre ilk bir seri olarak yapılacak şey ve bu ilki olacak. İzleyen şeyler Türkiye'nin değişik yerlerinde yapılabilir ya da bu Avrasya dediğimiz işte Avrupa ve Orta Doğu'nun, Asya'nın ülkelerinde de yapılabilir. Biz yine de bir şeyle ilgili bir anket hazırladık. Yani bunun yıllık mı, 2 yıllık mı yapılması yönünde sizlerin de önerilerinizi alalım diye. Ben konuşmamı burada tamamlıyorum. Sizlere teşekkür ediyorum. Bu organizasyonu yapan diğer iki arkadaşımızın da sizlerle paylaşmak istediği hususlar var. Ben o yüzden Veysi Hoca ve Erdem Hoca'yı buraya davet edeyim. Kendilerine bırakayım.
Evet, merhaba, hoş geldiniz. First, let me speak in Turkish and then switch to English. Just a few sentences. Sorry. Bu çalıştaya aşağı yukarı bir 10-12 hafta önce karar verdik. O yüzden biraz aslında hazırlanma süresi çok kısa oldu. Fakat ona rağmen ben bu etkinliğe çalışmalarını göndererek katkı veren bütün meslektaşlarıma, bütün hocalarıma çok teşekkür ediyorum. Öğrencilerimiz de var. Özellikle sanırım yarımız ODTÜ'den, Ankara'dan. Onlara da çok teşekkür ederim. Çünkü şu anda çok yoğun bir dönem yaşıyorlar ama ona rağmen buradalar. Onlara da çok teşekkür ederim. Ama son olarak ve en çok da Işık Üniversitesi'ne teşekkür etmek istiyorum. Çünkü bu organizasyonu, bu etkinliğin ana sponsoru ve tek sponsoru Işık Üniversitesi aslında önemli bir başlangıca imza atmış oldu. Eminim yıllar sonra, çok yıllar sonra, 5-10 yıl sonra artık biz emekli olmaya başlayınca ilk Çalıştay'ın Işık Üniversitesi'nde Maslak'ta yapıldığını hatırlayacağız. Bu Çalıştay'ın da CU gibi, CU da çünkü ilk başlangıcında hatırladığım kadarıyla daha küçük bir şeydi ama şimdi artık gitgide büyüdü. CU gibi çok şey olacağına inanıyorum. İlgi çekeceğini ama tabii bizim şöyle bir şeyimiz var. Onu da söylemek lazım. Bu alanda çalışan, Lale Hoca ile de konuşuyorduk arada. Türkiye'de çalışan baksanız sağdan soldan bir 10-15 kişi geçmiyor öğretim üyesi sayısı. Böyle bir aslında durumumuz var, handikapımız var. Umarım bununla da hem yurt dışından hem yurt içinden araştırmacıları toplamış olacağız. Bu da aslında bizim için bir görev olduğunu düşünüyorum. Tekrar hem katılımcılara hem de özellikle sunum yapacak meslektaşlarıma çok teşekkür ediyorum. Bu arada biz öğleden önceki oturumun böyle sakin geçeceğini aslında tahmin etmiştik Oğuz Hoca'yla. Oğuz Hoca burada herhalde programı yaparken. Çünkü buraya şey koymayı düşünüyorduk. Yani bir keynote'umuz var. Onu koymayı düşünüyorduk. Yok olmaz bunu öğlen arasıdan sonra koyalım dedik ve onun üzerine keynote'u 13.30'a aldık. Genellikle yani ilk defa böyle bir çalışmaya katılanlar için söylüyorum. Çok şey bir durum değil. Ne derler? Sürpriz bir durum değil. Burası dolu olsaydı sürprizdi benim için, onu söyleyeyim. Evet. So let me switch to English, but I'd like to thank invited speakers, invited presenters, and especially Işık University for their great support for realizing this workshop. It will be the first one, but I believe after 10 or 15 years we will have more audience, much more audience, many more, I hope. And actually in Turkey, we don't have too many researchers working in this area. So by this way, by this activity, by this workshop, I hope we will be able to create an awareness among young researchers to work in this field. So thanks a lot again.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to Eurasia Graphics 2012. I like to tell stories. So little by little, I want to tell you the story of this conference. It started during a meeting with me and Mustafa. I was doing a seminar here about the work we do at K, and I told him that universities need to put more energy into this area because I think it's one of the most exciting areas of research because it covers a lot of stuff. It has impact on very different levels. So when he told me that he has something similar in mind, I told him that okay, there is something called SIGGRAPH. I'm sure everybody knows about it. It's the biggest fair in the world about computer graphics. So it started small like this by researchers doing their presentations, etc. But then it attracted a lot of industry attention, and it's now like every year like around 30,000 people basically attend that conference. So the idea that we have is that why don't we get everybody in Turkey and some international speakers as well, so that we somehow start a fire that it grows bigger and bigger at the end. So that's what we did. Mustafa, thanks to him, convinced Işık University to organize something like this. Basically, started calling his colleagues and friends all over Turkey to invite them here, and they responded fantastically. And I did my part to invite some of the experts in the industry. So as he said, we have maybe, he said 10 weeks, but I think, he said 10 weeks, but I think we had 4 weeks, 6 weeks time, frankly. But I think it's a great success. I was just making this stuff yesterday, and there were I noticed that there are 27 papers that there is going to be presented today. That's kind of a huge number. I was not expecting it, frankly speaking. So thanks for that as well. Thanks for your support. But what we believe is that we need to get people working in this area together so that they discuss, they get ideas further by discussing, by doing better than the other ones, but in a good way. So, research is a big part of it. And Erwan is one of my colleagues from DreamWorks. I'm sure he will talk about it as well. This all starts by small things, and then it goes pretty fast. When you think about the DreamWorks company, like originally it's another company called PDI. The R&D team was around 10 people. Now he was telling me that, he just told me that DreamWorks is a 200 people R&D department, just doing research on computer graphics, on the premises of a company. Pixar is pretty much the same, around 200 people. And I don't know, maybe 20 professors of different universities are contributing to their pipeline, their work ethic, and their work procedures. So I think there should be a closer integration between the industry and the academia. But this is the event that this kind of events should, I think like this kind of events may initiate that, and it's up to us basically to go further from here. Mustafa said like whether we should do it every year or every other year. We should do it every year. This is my hope, because like this kind of stuff, it's better to do it every year. And I hope every year a university will sponsor it at different venues, different places. We have great universities around. I've been traveling all over Turkey, doing seminars. Like I went to Istanbul Technical University. I'm going to Kocaeli University next week. Bilgi University. A lot of universities. There's great venues. It's just like somebody needs to support it a little bit. And then I think the rest, we are here. Like academia is here. You guys are here. We'll do a good thing, I think, at the end. So one of the ideas that I had is that I want to have two kind of interesting presentations. One of them is the general 3D software development and 3D rendering. Where are we going about that? One is the guy to talk about it, and I asked him to come here and do a talk. You'll listen to him. And one and his team built a software called Relight, which is a new breed of software doing let's say production, 3D animated movies rendering. It's a kind of different thing, like doing it for architectural presentations or visualization purposes is different than making a movie. So their scope is really on making 3D animated movies and rendering beautiful images. And he's going to talk about that. And Belisaire will give us his hands-on experience with the software. So I will invite Belisaire from the Work Labs from Montpellier, France, so that he can show us the software, what it does, and like how we use rendering technology in a production context. Because you guys are great in doing research, but at the end, some companies are turning that into a product. In my case, it's an entertainment product, and Belisaire is going to give us his thoughts about the software and how they do about things. Belisaire.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for the invitation. I'd like to express my gratitude to the entire team who organized this conference and for extending the invitation to L1 and I so that we could be here today. I'd like to start by showing I'm going to show the demo reel of our company so that you can have there it goes. It'll give an overview of what we can do at the moment with. It'll give an overview of what we can do at the moment with bakery relay technology. What you are seeing at the moment is all of the images we have worked on till the end of 2011 in visual development for future productions and animated movies, short animated movies. Bakery Relight.
Can you show us again once more, if you don't mind, because of the lighting, we cannot see it very well.
There we go. At Dwarf Labs, we have been working in collaboration with Bakery on their software Relight since it was early in its beta stage and not yet released to the public. This has given us a unique experience to be able to participate in the development and the adaptation of a rendering software to the unique needs that are necessary for productions for movies and animated series nowadays, where this is one of the most essential things is to meet not only quality but also production time constraints. We have to do more and faster than we ever had before. So one of the main advantages, excuse me. One of the main advantages that have been developed with Bakery Relight is that as it is an external rendering package, we have the possibility of integrating multiple softwares and getting the best experience of each software directly into our renderer. I will show as soon as the demo is finished. What you are seeing now is, by the way, the different elements used in the illumination of the shot you have behind. For people who have already worked on 3D softwares, you will recognize the names that we have written on the top. These elements, even if we are showing them now, are actually not composed in post-production. We render directly the beauty image, which means that most of the post-production work that is rather costly and can become pretty complicated is taken care of before we even exit the rendering software. We will demonstrate that a bit better in a few minutes as soon as we are done with this. There we go. Now, as I was saying, this is the demo that we created last year. That is represents approximately 1.5 years worth of development in our methodologies and in our production techniques. We have since then worked quite a bit more on getting things more and more. Here we go. Let me get the. Optimizing more and more great, I'm on the last one. Excuse me. There we go. So. Great. 1 minute, I'll get this to work. Them if you have an idea why it's starting at the end.
At the end?
Yeah. I select the first one and yet. Yeah, it's the last one. Okay. An empty document. We tried it out earlier, it worked perfectly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that one. I'll go to the PDF. No problem. I have it in PDF. So we'll do.
Okay, you can also do it on. So
Try clear recording.
clear recording. Did you?
There we go. Now we just need to have the. Okay. Perfect. So, what I'm going to present mostly today is a comparative view of a standard pipeline philosophy, and we're going to have side by side the Relight philosophy that we have integrated at Dwarf Labs. So what you see at the screen on the screen is a representation of the main steps of a production in 3D graphics, with at the start, all the way at the top. Well, I start only at the 3D graphics and not at the 2D stage that comes before. But we start with modelization. We have we can have parallel work power working on texturing, rigging, and VFX at the same time. As an example, on a character. We can then bring it down while the texturing and the VFX is being worked on. We can directly bring it down to animation and layout. And with a standard 3D pipeline, we're going to assemble all of the information in the layout and bring it into an integrated renderer, whether it is Mental Ray or most other rendering packages. They are always working, well, generally working from within the main 3D package UI. So we always have one problem, is that as soon as we want to add secondary 3D packages, like if I want to do a main animation within Maya to use get the most of its potential, but I need to have 3D VFX done in Houdini for rigid body simulations, destruction, or I need to integrate flames, I'm always going to have the problem is I'm going to have multiple parallel scenes that are going to have to be composed in a third package. We're going to get all of the passes that we rendered in the different 3D packages, and we're going to have to assemble them in an external program. With Relight, we use a slightly different approach. We have the main 3D package and the secondary 3D package, but we export all of their data as French words, as raw data into the dedicated renderer, which is Relight. So when we are working on the rendering of the final images, we have each element within the same software. We are not going to have the different problems of composition. We can already start working on getting the image homogenized, get a nice lighting done on all elements without having to rework the different elements afterwards. So I have a small detail of the different advantages of this type of system. As I stated before, we have the ability to combine the benefits of multiple 3D packages. At the moment at Dwarf Labs, we use mainly Blender for most modelization and some VFX. Some VFX. We also use Houdini as our main simulation program, but the base program that we use for all other aspects of the production is Maya. And up till now, it has been we had to use Maya as a bridge to send all data to Relight, but in the past year, with the development that has been taking place at Bakery and at Dwarf Labs, we have been creating parallel exporters to allow to be able to work smoothly from one software to another with, as an example, the integration of new file formats, Alembic archives, which is a standardized format that allows we can keep all information that is in a scene and export it as one file and have it fully and properly integrated into any other 3D package, which gives us enormous potential for the combination of animation that has been done in one package, Maya, and if I want to do all of the hair dynamics and cloth dynamics in another, I am not limited anymore as I was before with having to pre-bake all of the animation, send it to the other software, we always have problems with the different simulation techniques of having things that are slightly misaligned, etc. And recently, since we have integrated this new file format and other techniques next to it, we are now completely free of any pipeline we wish to use. And so now in the bakery, with the bakery Relight, we can directly create a standardized scene that we will use as an asset. We will see that in a few minutes. So, as I'm saying, we can have a common assetization system. We use an in-house software that gives us a big hand for this assetization system called Dwarfman, which is, we will have, I have a demo of the software that we will show you a bit later. But essentially, this software allows us to give a standardized database, a place that is external to all of the different software packages where we can identify and treat each asset independently. Now, one thing what is an asset? An asset is what we call a container with certain information characterizing an object. For example, if I was to do a character, I would have 3 different assets separated. I would have the skin, the flesh modelization with all of the textures would be one asset, the clothing would be a second, and the hair would be a third. And I can have the skin, which would be exported from Maya, as in the previous example, and the cloth and the hair, 2 different assets, will be exported from a secondary software. But with the fact that we're using a standardized assetization system, it poses no problem anymore. Also, well, what I stated before, Relight regroups all assets from each 3D package. And as I was saying earlier, it allows our lighting artists now to not have to work independently on different softwares. Between renderers, we can have big differences in the final image, as we were discussing with Eldam earlier. And, well, it simplifies a lot of matters. So another advantage of Relight that I stated rather rapidly earlier is we can do just about every single aspect of the composition of an image within the software. So we actually use, at the moment, softwares like Nuke, which are the standard compositing softwares on the market, only to do simple. One of the main advantages of having this system in place with the materials, having a complete material scene, is that we are not obliged to have just a shader that is one node composed in certain programs. We can create a predefined shader that is a series of nodes, a complex construction of elements that give a certain result and have it referenced everywhere in the program wherever we need it. It gives a lot of possibilities and simplifies a lot of matters for our lead lighters and lead shaders to create complex situations that can be easily integrated by our juniors or shot lighters. Finally, we have in each asset we will export to Relight, we will have a lighting scene. Now, lighting is something that is not normally done at the first export of an object, except that here it's got a very important use for us. It's well, allows us to give the visualization of the object without having to render a complete shot. To have it, we can work on each object independently, but we work on a neutral lighting rig that is the same for each different asset that we export onto the software. Now, a neutral lighting rig means just that we are going to have a standard studio-like lighting that will be the same. That means that if the artists take a minimum care of what they're doing while they're producing the shaders for the object, normally we have no surprises of having one object that is way brighter than another or too saturated, because they are normally supposed to comply with the same lighting. They don't have to modify it. This allows us to avoid later on in the production, when we start getting into the integration of several elements together, a lot of tweaking to do to get them to work well together. We work on this at the base, at the first step of the assetization. Now, I'm going to show a few images of results we can get from the lighting scene as we did on the project Maslak. Now, this one here specifically has some rather interesting things, but we'll talk about it later, as that it's a tree that is completely modelized, textured in other softwares. But we have a fur generation on several elements. Just about everywhere on the bark we have a real moss that is growing, that is created entirely procedurally without the use of a single pre-calculated image, which allows for immediate and rapid variation in all of the elements in our scene if we had to duplicate it. Now, an example of this is on the following images. We take a basic shading that we did on one element with the flexibility of Relight's control over the shaders and the ease with which we can duplicate assets and integrate different elements into them. By using just a texture that is white, white to black, grayscale color texture, we can afterwards very rapidly and efficiently duplicate this object and give it different shading completely using the exact same information. Every image that you're going to see in the next few slides are based on the exact same information at each time. We use procedural noises to give variation in it, and we saturate the grayscale color image to give it the actual color it's going to have on the final production. So a few more examples are going to go through. These are the type of images that we generally take, we render while we're at the shading development parts of the production, so that we can get quick validation from the person, the client, who has asked for the short film or the movie, and he can rapidly say if there are certain aspects of the different elements he does not like, so we can modify it before we start getting into complex environments. Once again, here you have another example of procedural systems used on surfaces to create hair and the wet marks and so forth. The main character from the same series. Now, how is an asset organized? Well, how do we organize our assets within the lighting software? We start off by separating our assets into different aspects. We're going to consider each different type of element we can integrate into the lighting software as an independent asset. We separate them generally into 4 different sections: shader assets, object assets, lighting assets, and VFX assets. The shader assets will be more or less material presets. So it means that I can we can create metal, plastic, fur, flesh, all that type of materials. But we're not limited to the use of just a material. We can have, as I stated before, a complex organization of shaders within the scene that is the material preset, and reuse it on each element that needs that type of shading. So we gain enormous time, because when we get into the object asset, we can already have most of the shading done, and we only need to adapt it to the particularities of that object. If we need to have a mix of shaders, we can integrate 2 different shaders, and we only have to work on the merging and tweak the shader so that it works well and is adapted to what what the client asked in his concepts. Once we have the individual assets of the production that are finished, we're going to start combining them into groups, staged groups in the environment. So generally, we are going to consider what we call at Dwarf Labs sets. It's kind of the cinematographic idea of a set, which is a closed environment or a piece of an environment that is background for the character. So the example on this stage would be that I would create a set containing the stage, the podium, and the tables and so forth. Plus I could add initial props with the computers and microphones. And after that, I can integrate this set into other sets until I can, well, see it afterwards, but I will integrate sets into sets to create entire environments. Once the set has been created, we're going to start creating lighting assets based on those sets. We're often going to have the same environments used, especially in certain series, when we're doing production for series, as at the moment we are working on a 72 episode, 6 minute per episode production for a French company. And they asked us specifically to work on a system for their lighting so that they can have entire environments that are lighted, but we can have a variation between dawn, dusk, midday, night. So we have to create for each of these sets its individual components. Certain shaders are going to have to change so that its reaction with the new lighting works well. Certain objects, when they are going to be put in the dark, like I can think of stickers that glow in the dark, are not going to have at all the same type of shading integrated than it would have before. But we're going to be able to integrate it into a lighting asset with the different, we can start integrating some basic lights, like if I have a lamp that is going to be turned on at night, I will be able to start integrating those objects into the lighting asset. Afterwards, I'm going to export, as I said, I'm going to integrate different sets into an environment. An environment will be a place a lot bigger where we can have several different cameras placed and we can have different views of the same environment. The environment needs to work well globally. We need each individual set to be able to be, we'll say, compatible. It needs to be, it needs to look well with all of the others. It often needs to work very well to have certain additional tweaks done on an environment lighting asset. So we're going to have a lighting asset that is going to integrate all of the objects from the object assets plus all of the set lightings that were that were created based on the sets. And we're going to start adapting the lighting of each. If I take the example of where we might have a studio with a kitchen, a corridor, we're going to have a living room. Each individual room will have been treated as a set, but once we're going to combine them, we're going to have to make sure that when there's the lights on in the corridor but not in the living room, we have to have something that is visually coherent and nice to look at. So we're going to have to do a lot of work on that side after we have finished all of the set creation. Parallel to all this, though, is we have a last type of a set that is a bit specific. The VFX assets. The VFX assets are cannot be integrated really into any other component, as VFX is by definition generally based on a shot. It is not something that you can create globally for an entire production. If you are going to make a wall break, the wall is going to break at one moment, but not every single time we see the wall. So we have to create it separately so that we can integrate it easily based on the set, as shown in the diagram, but we can integrate it rapidly back into the shot so that it'll take precedence over the previous assets that had been created. So this organization can seem rather complex comparatively to certain others I have seen these past few years, but with Relight, what is interesting is that we have the possibility of doing this in a non-destructive workflow. Each individual scene that is integrating other scenes in it, because each asset for me is a scene in Relight, will only have integrated into the scene not the nodes that were integrated in the precedent scenes, but only the information that has changed. So if finally we get to the shot, we're rendering the shot, and the producer says, finally, no, I don't like the main character with a red t-shirt, change it to yellow t-shirt, that'll change a lot of things for the lighting because we're going to have plenty of saturation that we didn't have before. We can change the shader at the object level and see its repercussion at each level, so that once we will tweak each level, and when we get back to the shot, normally we're going to have very little work to get it to integrate well with the environment, even though it has been a big modification. Now, as far as the technologically the assetization system of pipeline of Relight works, we have quite a few interesting advantages that have been developed by Bakery's team over the years. One of these is that we are using several softwares. So we have to have some type of common assetization system, which means that we have to be able to not only to export our assets, but we need to be able to update it without losing any of the modifications or tweaks that the previous artists have done on it. So they have developed some interesting techniques and intelligent updating system. It will automatically integrate any new information that has been added to the original object without doing any modifications. So if I have to, I can start, as an example, I can start working on a character. I will do the base skin, to start doing the shading on it, and after I've been working on it for 2-3 days, the modelization team has finally got the eyes and the different elements that are not necessarily integrated into the skin, and they will send it to me. I will have the objects that will update automatically in my Relight scene, even with the different, even though it is a different software. And I will also have each image that has been added to the original asset, which will appear in the new asset, the updated asset, even if it needs to use a different preset material. Well, one of the big advantages of this system is very efficient for visual development, because most of the redundant tasks that we can have in visual development for creating variation are automatically taken care of at the creation of the asset, and artists can immediately and automatically concentrate their efforts on the final shading of the objects without having to take care of any of the technical difficulties that there could have been as we had earlier in the on the early versions of Relight. We have been working on in a very close collaboration with the Bakery team. In fact, I think I am talking on Skype with the members of the Bakery team just about every day. And they generally, when we have a modification that we need that would save us time, plenty of time, we can have it within hours, if not a few days. So it means that we've gone through, in just over 2 years, I think we must have installed or updated close to 200 different versions of Relight, which is also another difficulty we had, making sure that every computer had the right versions. Now, a few aspects that we haven't talked about so far in about the assetization. So as I said, we can, the lighting assets, we can decline each asset into different, we can, start that again. We can create a base lighting for an element, as we have in the lighting asset. With what we have developed that is unique to Dwarf Labs, that is not at the moment integrated into Bakery Relight, and that is external tools, is different possibilities like the duplication of assets directly in the UI, so that we can create these variances, and the original asset will find itself duplicated in the database, so in the layout people can update things without having to create duplicate versions. As we are working on an exported software, we're working on an external software, we have certain limitations that we don't have in different other renderers. One of these limitations would be that if I was to create a character who could have different hairstyles, I can create each hairstyle independently, I can create the skin independently, and I can create the cloth independently, but I'm also going to have to create an asset specific to each of these combinations. Those are the type of limitations we have, but the tools we have developed allow us to rapidly get over these small limitations. I'm going to show on the screen oops, wrong program. I'm going to show on the screen a demo of the program we have worked on over the past 2 years that is our bridge between Relight, Maya, Houdini, and Blender. So, Dwarfman. As stated, Dwarfman for us is a program that is used mostly as an assetization tool and an interfaced system to give easy navigation and some quick possibilities to the shading team and the lighting team. Now, certain of those possibilities that are demonstrated here, well, we have a multi-project system where we can go from one, we can have several projects that work at the same time, but as the projects will have started at different moments and will have different technologies used, we're going to have to be able to version the systems and use for each production an adapted version of the different 3D packages we use. Plus, we need to have independent databases and so forth, and that is where Dwarfman is rather useful for us, because as it is the transition part between all of this, we can configure the artist's environment completely according to the choices he makes when he opens it. We have also integrated, we're starting to integrate at the moment, all of the more advanced assetization parts that I've talked about, but that I am afraid are not going to be demonstrated really in this version that you're going to see on the screen, as it is a demo that we created end of 2011, and there has been some big modifications since then. I will go through a few of the aspects that are not illustrated in the video. One of the philosophies that we have at Dwarf Labs is that we consider 3D packages are great. 3D packages allow us to do a lot of stuff. But generally, 3D packages are designed by somebody, first of all, who does not use the package, and second of all, who does not use it like you use it. Each studio has its own system that is preferred. We can't use a standard program that is used by lots of other people and hope to have something that is sufficiently optimized for the constraints of a production environment. So it's from this will to create something that is adapted to our needs that we started the development of Dwarfman. What you're going to see is the integration we have of Relight directly in Dwarfman. So what you have on the right side of the screen is what used to be the asset management window, which was very basic, but it was sufficient when we were working on Mylene and a few of the other projects that you saw in the demos. But as you can see, we take part of both the advantages of Dwarfman to create things procedurally, plus the integrated possibilities that exist in Relight to create nodal systems that allow our artists to, this is the surfacing development scene. It's the scene in which each shader will start off by creating his work environment with which he will start creating the shaders of his objects. But he might want to be able to try out this surfacing development, this shader he developed, on different lighting situations, dusk, dawn, as stated before. So we integrated something that Relight had started that allows us to rapidly and visually choose which scene will be directly integrated into our final surfacing scene. And well, it's a lot of, it's a bit of a complex UI, but it works very well. We get used to it. After that, so this is what a relate scene looks like at our place. We have just the amount of information we need to be able to work externally and use our tools directly in a relate scene without actually opening the UI. We're going to be able to, using this type of system, transfer rapidly shaders or objects from one scene to another, include different shaders into an asset, choose which level, well, as we are working on, at the moment, as I said, a TV series where we have very tight time constraints, we actually started working in a reverse order on our assetization. We'd export the environment with everything in it, and we do actually all of the shading within the environment, and we had to create methodologies that would allow us to take the information that we placed in the environment on each object and send it back to its original asset so that the original asset can be used in another environment and have its shader, so that other artists who will use the same elements do not need to redo the same work. And it can be also very impractical if we have two parallel versions of the same element that exists if the producer decides to change his idea at the last minute, which always arrives. So there's a quick demonstration of the different possibilities we have. There's what you're seeing on the left with creation of user rights. You cannot actually work on any production validated information, but you can only read the information, never write on it. So whenever you're going to start working on something, which is what he's doing here, you have to create a personal copy of the scene so that only the leads, when you are finished and satisfied with what you have developed, can then integrate the information you've created into the final system. You have we have different things that we've also integrated. Here you have a demonstration of the integration of DRQ, which is a render manager, which we preferred using rather than the implemented system with the Relight, which allows us to have a very graphical and eased system to control all of our jobs and control all of the computers on our farm. So you're going to see we have the possibility of creating each separate pass without having to pre-configure within Relight. We can create multiple passes at the same time. We have all the standard render management systems integrated, which has been a great time saver for our artists over the past years. I'm just going to check. Yeah, it's just about finished. It's going to continue. We have different pre-visualization and log possibilities, additional information that is always useful. As soon as it's done, I'm going to just show different production examples I have brought with me that will show more visually some of the possibilities that we have developed over the years with this software. Now I'm going to have to put down the microphone. Keep it like that. It'll be fine. So this is one of the first projects we worked on where we had, it was our first test of the first system within Relight. I'll just show quickly what we have here. So the original modelization, as we can see it within Relight, we have a pre-visualization of the fur that we generate in Relight in the OpenGL view that allows us to rapidly see what we are actually working on and how it is being affected by the different shaders we have applied on it. Now, this character, as it was the first system, uses a nice, well, deprecated, thank God, system of vector paint. I never really appreciated that, sorry. But we kind of like what we use in a normal map. We create a map that has 3 colors. Each color represents an axe, and depending on the combination of the 3, it determines the direction of the fur that we generate. During our first full-scale production, which was the production of myelin, we tested out another technique that we had never tried so far, and that was with relight, and that was rather interesting. This technique was to not create hair based on the geometry underneath and to guide it, but to create some type of NURBS socks, as we call it, that will generate all of the hair within it. So we have visualization in relight of the different socks that we have created and the hair that has been generated from it. So as you see, the shape is very closely followed. So it allows us to create hairstyles that are very artistic without having to spend a lot of time on different hairstyling techniques. We can directly send it, give an modelizer the possibility of creating the hairstyle in a polygonal mesh. Showing different turnarounds so you can see more what it looks like. Now, on the same production we have worked on different uses of procedural hair. We created, as you might have seen in the teaser, an animated grass that is directly generated using the hair of relight, with just a different shader applied on it. And for a first test, it was extremely reactive. Oh, this is not the one I want. And as I showed earlier, but on a still image, we will have the finally, that's not the one I want. Perfect. There we go. We have this tree that was generated completely, all of the fur on it was also a fully procedural system to generate all of the fur on it with several levels of fur. Now, I don't think we have time to go too much in detail, so I'm going to go rapidly and show the evolution. Now, we also, I haven't talked about it, but we have actually, we're not just a studio, but we also have an academy at the lab. And this is some of the tests that the students have done on procedural fur generation using relight. This is the approximately 1 month of work on a sub-junior and the guide hair that was used within Maya to generate it. Another creature that I can show you that has also got, that was created at the same time by the same students, shows, this one here has absolutely no simulation. We're only doing it only follows the topology, but it reacts very well, and I'm starting to think that we do not need simulation on most of the cases where we have very close grown hair. Here and a few other demonstrations of the possibilities of fur within relight. This is a development we did internally for another company that shows this one specifically is the color bleeding of reflective light and how it reacts on the shader, plus the deformation possibilities without having any simulation once again. And finally, I'm just going to show the last piece of work that we have been, that we did recently. So, this is a character. I'm just going to see if I can. No, not print. This is a character that we developed recently. That is a development made for a company that works on some animated TV series, and we were showing the possibilities of hairstyling. It's the same technique we used on Mylene earlier, but now we have made it a lot more complex. We are now using, instead of the original 50 to 60 socks that define the hairstyling, we're using close to 600 to define it, give it more volume and more detail. But also we're now able to independently isolate each single fiber to give it specific color between two ramps that we designate, which gives us the final colors that you saw, the one that you'll see a bit better. There you go. So that's about it. If anybody has questions, please feel free. Yes? Do we use cloud computing? Yeah. No, at the moment we're doing everything internally. We have a small render farm within the studio, which is sufficient. We actually do not need enormous machines to do the rendering. We're using the basic workstation we have for rendering is 8 gigabytes of memory with the quad-core processors, and it's sufficient. Yeah, we optimize. We use all of the workstations at night. It gives us. We have close to 250 processors that can render at a time at the moment, which is more than enough for what we have had to do. With Relight, we do not have big rendering times. The biggest character is the one I just shown, and we're at half an hour with humongous pixel sampling, because we have very, very thin hair on it.
How many hair fibers do you have?
Black Sad, the cat that I showed earlier, I know the body was close to 2 million fibers. I think that for Zorro it would probably be about triple, but I'm not sure. I don't have the exact stats.
6 million hair fibers in half an hour.
I think so. Yeah. Just got the images 2 days ago, so I don't have all the technical details about that, sorry. Any other questions?
Hello. Me and Evren will present you our work on using Voronoi diagrams for realistic dry soil modeling today. Our instructor Erdal Yılmaz is on abroad currently, hence unfortunately he will not be with us today, although he wanted to attend a lot. Now let's begin with the presentation. Here is our outline. First, we will begin with the introduction, then we will mention some related works with the concept. Then following, we will explain our proposed methods and implementation with results. And finally, we will conclude and have a look at our references. Now, we all know that terrain modeling is a complex and challenging issue of computer graphics because of the many intricate details that nature holds. But since almost all outdoor virtual environments need a terrain to be built upon, it's a popular research topic either. A few examples to these intricate details may be characteristic landforms such as mountains, rivers, and so on. Also, natural processes such as erosion may change the height map of the terrains, creating unique structures. Different soil types, climate and weather conditions of the area may also have an effect on land forming, and of course some vegetation is needed that usually covers most of the terrains outdoors. All these details have a great impact on the degree of realism of the modeled terrain. So what this presentation about is an implementation of an alternative use of the well-known old mathematical concept Voronoi diagrams for realistic modeling of dry soil. As I said, Voronoi diagrams are an old mathematical concept and have been used extensively in both computer graphics applications and other areas of science for many years. Most common examples in the academia are spatial data analysis usage, geographic information systems, network modeling, and locational optimization for urban planning. These cities may be virtual or real. It's used in both areas. Nearest neighbor problems. Service site allocations are a popular usage also. For example, fire stations and post offices are allocated using this concept. If we have a set of locations to allocate post offices, how would we determine the closest post office to a given house? It's something like that. Anthropology. Anthropologists use this concept to examine the animals' behaviors. Warring tribes of animals organize their boundaries by continually pushing their territory until they meet with another tribe. So their boundaries form somewhat of a Voronoi diagram. Forest planning and harvesting is another usage. Lava flow simulation of volcanoes is also another usage of the concept. As we see so many examples related with Voronoi diagrams, in spite of its resembling pattern, we could not be able to see any academic work related with dry soil modeling, and wanted to serve as a bridge actually. It's not something like we invented this, we just implemented an old mathematical concept to model dry soil and wanted to include it in academia so that some other people can make use of it. Okay, our proposed method is, as we explained before, to use Voronoi diagrams for modeling dry soil. But what will be the benefits of this implementation to us? Why do we do that? First of all, as we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, realistic terrain modeling is a challenging issue with many details involved. Dry soil involves many unique formations that are hard to imitate by hand. So this implementation will eliminate the artist-made repetitive texture patterns that either is too time-consuming or result in detectable repeating patterns. So the method is most useful in procedural terrain creation and provides faster and more realistic results involving unique patterns. Before jumping into the proposed method, we would like to mention the old mathematical concept Voronoi diagram. Here is a conscious definition of the concept taken from the article referenced below. Voronoi diagram is a partition of the plane into n polygonal regions, each of which is associated with a given point. The region associated with a point is a set of points closer to that point than to any other given point. To better express the concept, we prepared also a visual representation too. You can see it at the bottom part. In this visualization, we see that as more points are added, as we add more points to the region, the area is subdivided into regions according to this definition. So our proposed method and implementation involves three main steps actually. First, the terrain is partitioned into tiles by Voronoi diagram, as we mentioned the theory. Then, to obtain a more natural result, as we see outdoors, the partitioned terrain is distorted by Perlin noise, or any other noise may be applied, but in this implementation we prefer to use Perlin noise. And to increase the realism, these tiles are displaced in positive or negative directions, and also the crack lines that formed between are displaced downwards in the negative up direction. Here also we included a demonstration of these steps. First we see a terrain partitioned by Voronoi diagram, then Perlin noise is applied to the terrain to have more natural tiles, and finally tiles and crack lines are displaced downwards and upwards in this animation. And here we can see the height maps of the Voronoi diagram combined with Perlin noise and the resulting formation. Here this Voronoi, this one is the Voronoi, this is the Perlin height map, and this is the resulting formation that's combined. And before reviewing our results, for the sake of comparison, we wanted to show you some real photographs. These photographs are taken by the referred photographers below. And in these photographs, crack formation is seen clearly that resembles the Voronoi diagrams we mentioned before. Also, you may have noticed that in the upper right one, tiles are warped downwards, and in the lower right one, tiles are warped upwards. Actually, how these cracks are formed is related both with soil type and weather conditions of this area. And we prefer to use TerraGen software in this implementation. TerraGen 2 is a terrain generation tool which is created by PlanetSide software. The tool is very successful and advanced in procedural outdoor modeling. So if you are interested in outdoor virtual environments, this is the most popular tool that's used actually. Although we have used TerraGen for visualization, since the method discussed is a generic method, it can be used in any visualization language or software actually. Now let's see the resulting terrains. Here we see downward distorted crack lines which mostly occur in dry hair. This is one of our results. And here we see upward displaced tiles, which resembles cracks forms in somewhat more humid weather conditions. And again, we see some upward displaced tiles of more humid weather conditions. In this one, we see a texture map terrain having downward distorted crack lines. Here, actually, seamless crack texture is applied to the terrain, so we can see small cracks inside the bigger crack tiles. Here you can see this is actually a seamless crack texture. So as we apply the bigger cracks and map the texture, we can have an effect of small textures, small cracks inside the bigger ones. And finally, here we see a texture map terrain having upward distorted crack lines, resembling a hard, more solid soil type. To conclude, we implemented an old well-known mathematical concept to model a natural phenomenon. We can see a close-up render of the cracks here. In this close-up shot, we can see the displacement of crack lines here clearly. These are distorted downwards, and we have some noise on the tiles too. And here are our references. Most of the references are related with the Voronoi diagram concept, because as we mentioned before, we couldn't be able to find an academic work related with this issue, but there are lots of academic works involving Voronoi diagram concept. And the references also include some academic works involving Voronoi diagram formation and their usage in some areas of science. And these are the rest of the references also related with the usage of Voronoi diagram in some alternative areas of science. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, we would be glad to answer. Yeah.
So, you guys first did big chunks with Voronoi diagrams, and then texture maps it to give a little more detail. So what do you guys need to do, let's say, those small cracks procedurally as well, instead of texture map?
Yeah, we can use more than one layer of Voronoi diagrams. It's like using it 4 or 5 layers, it's possible, but we wanted to use a practical solution, like if this preset is ready, just map a texture and you will get something like small crack lines. But it's possible to use more than one layer.
Because this is more like real-time application for real-time application, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you ask us, for example, it would be different. We would be most probably investigating those layering as well. Because for a movie, we would need that.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So maybe it will be good to experiment with that as well. You can build up a system like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you again.
Cemil değil mi? Okay, so now we have one of the usual suspects of 3D and graphics development. Cemil Turin is from Yogurt Technologies. They are developing a graphics engine for browser and mobile apps and games, and he will give us a presentation about it.
The majority of the presentation will be made by Gürel Erceş, also from our team. He's the principal engineer of the engine. So I'll just make the first few slides and then we'll leave the talk to Gürel. Thanks for coming. When they are setting up the computer, let me introduce you what we're doing. This is, although it's not strictly an academic work, a lot of aspects of it are really based on very deep R&D. It's been about 4.5 years that this engine has been prepared, or I'll say programmed, for the last in the last 4.5 years. And we will now present you the results of the last several years. This is a real-time 3D engine that is working with the Flash player in browsers and also on mobile devices. Contrary to common belief, partially created by Adobe themselves, a lot of people think that this Flash player-based engines in 3D are not compatible with iOS machines like iPhone and iPad. Now we will today, Gürel is going to show you that it's not true. So I will very briefly go over the first few slides and then leave the talk to Gürel. This is the background. Yogurt Technologies is a Turkish startup, I would say, a computer graphics company that goes back to 1997. And these are the first initial works that we have done in the early 2000s. They were online advert games and online games based in 2D Flash and also rendered 3D. And back in 2005, after a work of 3.5 years, Yogurt published the first 3D video game or PC game in Turkey in boxed form. I wouldn't be able to say it's a AAA game, but it's almost there. And with this first game, we learned how to produce a 3D engine in OpenGL. That was one of the first real-time 3D game engines entirely written by Turkish engineers. And based on that know-how, 1 year after that, we produced the first 3D advert game in Turkey for a local biscuit maker called Eti. It was called Eti Mekanik İstila, and it was actually more interesting than Pusu in many ways, but very few people was able to see it. And we have plans to republish it with this new 3D engine that Gürel is going to demonstrate today. Back in 2006, so we can go one more slide. And then after 2008, we got venture capital for a project called Yogurtistan, and we planned to make it in 3D. This was a decision made mid-2008. At that time, Flash player was not supporting the 3D hardware like graphics cards. So it was all CPU-based. And even if it's CPU-based, we had, because of that, we had to render all scene by ourselves and calculate all triangles, sorting them. We also used Voronoi diagrams at that time, but it's very tedious work. It was all based on vector graphics. But then mid-2010, we heard good things from Adobe, just by coincidence, that they had plans to support the graphics hardware of the computers. This was mid-2010, and a codenamed project, codenamed Molehill, started by Adobe, and we were luckily part of that discrete work. And so after this point, I will leave it to Gürel, and he is the principal engineer, and he will be telling you a lot of intricate details. And if you have questions after the talk, please do not hesitate to ask. Thanks.
Hello. First of all, we started as a Flash company, as a gaming company. So we merged our graphics experience and Flash experience together to create Yogurt 3D. In its first version, it used to do CPU rendering, which is not a rasterizer, but more than like drawing triangles and trying to sort triangles out to get a decent 3D image. We could go up to 25,000 polygons, which was the highest number then. We supported skeleton animations, and the project had two separate parts, one named SwiftGL and one named Yogurt 3D. SwiftGL was an OpenGL implementation in Flash. On the next version, we decided to cancel SwiftGL because yeah, real time. We decided to cancel SwiftGL because we put SwiftGL in the project because we wanted to attract OpenGL developers to Flash, but no OpenGL developers wanted to go outside C++, and it was kind of bottleneck to keep it. So we canceled SwiftGL and rewritten all the API. We had our first customer at this stage, which is a company in San Francisco called Great Bear, which was making a like social Street Fighter kind of game. The one in the below image is the game. Then in 2011, Adobe announced Stage 3D, which is a graphics pipeline implementation inside Flash. It supports DirectX, OpenGL, and OpenGL ES. It decides on your platform, like if you're on Windows, it runs on DirectX, and if you're on Mac, it runs on OpenGL. But on this API, we had some pros and cons. The best thing about Flash is it's kind of like the biggest gaming console ever because it's installed in 3 billion devices, which is 99% of all computers connected to the internet. That's a pro. And it supports streaming videos, streaming sound files. It's asynchronously implemented, so you don't have to deal with threading and stuff like that. And it has an inside UI implementation API, so you can do your UI very easily inside a 3D platform. But the cons were this: Flash player has only one purpose, one main purpose. It says that it has to run everywhere the same. So they had OpenGL ES2 as a standard. So even if it supports OpenGL 3 plus OpenGL 3, it doesn't have that geometry shaders, that tessellation shaders, and high-level stuff like that. It's OpenGL ES by definition. The shaders are limited with 200 instructions, and there's a 20% change target overhead. It has automatic mip mapping inside of it, so you cannot use any textures without mip maps. And also you can't choose any precision on your textures, so it's standard 32-bit textures. It only supports anti-aliasing on backbuffers, so no anti-aliasing on render textures. It doesn't support MRT, which is multiple render target, so we cannot do deferred shading and new shading methods like that. And Flash runs on single thread for now. So on this part, we implemented Yoga 3D 2.0, which now supported GPU rendering. So we added dynamic lights, bump maps, post-processing effects, and shadows to it. This is a live demo, which has streaming video inside of it. We can do a lot of post-processing effects with it. So also like even some image processing effects like emboss. This is running inside Safari right now. So it's inside the browser, you don't have to install anything to use it. And it gives 3D content inside of your browser without having the need of downloading large files. And you can do anything interactive with it. Like this. And also, I can just boost up the user count. These are all separately animated characters which have 52 bones each. We have a simple object structure model. Everything is a scene object inside the scene, so every 3D object in your 3D environment is scene object. The ones which are renderable are called scene object renderables, which also have materials attached to them. The scene contains all of those, and a context only defines which scene to be rendered where and how by the render. On stage 3D, you have to write assembly-like shaders. This is called AGAL, which is a short version of Adobe Graphics Assembly Language. So all the shaders are written in assembly code. This is a sample code. But in our engine, we give quite a few materials already implemented, so you can do environment mappings, specular materials, and all kinds of materials which can be done in real time. And also we have our own file format for it, because we know that everything on the web has to be accessed really fast. So this is a comparison of Y3D file format with other currently online used other formats. The first table is for the Utah teapot, which is 25 kilobytes of our format and 148 kilobytes of Collada format. So we quite compressed everything to be used online. And also we use mostly vector graphics as textures, so our texture files is only 2 or 3 kilobytes each. So you can get a quite decent scene with some low file sizes. And this is a demo we made for Zynga, which is the creators of Farmville. It's a 3D Farmville, actually. Everything in it is interactable, and also it's 3D, so we can make use of it. This scene has more than 1,000 objects in it, and 300 of them are animated. And also we tested this on iOS, on iPhone 4GS, which is this is actually based on the same code, so no code rewrites. It's also ActionScript, which runs on iOS. It also supports Androids, devices like Google TV or Smart TV. Flash now can run on anywhere without changing any one line of code. And our production pipeline, actually, we don't have one. So it's a software development kit. We don't have tools, and we don't force anyone to change their pipelines. We only need 3D models and a programmer to give a swift output, which can be deployed anywhere. So not forcing anyone to use a fixed pipeline, we give them chance to develop their own or use it in their own pipeline. By the way, I forgot to mention, your 3D is open source. It's free online. You can access it on GitHub, and you can change any code if you like. It's completely free. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
How does its performance compare to, for instance, WebGL, which I guess can be used for similar things? Maybe it's less convenient or something.
Okay. In the case of WebGL is not quite ready yet. It's not out there. It's always an experiment for now. There is more limitations in Flash than on WebGL. So it defines the performance. Like 200 instruction is a limit, but it also makes it fast to work with because you cannot break that limitations. It's in a fixed speed. They use the same APIs to access the hardware. So I would say it would be the same. But there is also a performance issue with the Adobe Virtual Machine and JavaScript Virtual Machine. That's completely other thing, except it works on a CPU. So JavaScript is quite faster than ActionScript for now. They are trying to improve the Flash Virtual Machine with it. I would say it's up to you what to use. But there's no tooling for WebGL. There's no editors to write in JavaScript with. It's like Adobe is a tooling company anyway, so it gives you all the tools you need to develop with. I hope it would be answered to you. Yes?
Some browsers also don't support it.
Yeah, most browsers don't support WebGI by default. You have to open separate things. Even mobile browsers don't support it yet. Yeah. Yeah. Like this, it doesn't work inside the browser. It's you can get an IPA, I guess the file extension is use Compile Swift as an iPhone application. So you install your application from the App Store. You can't access it from the browser. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, have you heard of Air? It's compatible with Air 3.2. It's Adobe's client software that runs on all mobile devices. It's also free. So we compile to Air, and then it runs on every mobile browser. But the good thing is you only have one code. So the same code runs on the browsers and on the mobile device. We don't change even one line.
We have a question over there.
I have two questions. First one, after Stage 3 announced by Adobe, what's the your team's positions in the market? 4EG Flare 3D announced it, by the way, and they are using social media very effective. What do you think about it, and what will you do about it?
Okay. First of all, Adobe, before they announced Stage 3D as public, we have been working with them for 6 months. Also, other companies like Flare were working with them. So every company that now supports Stage 3D actually was in their private beta stage. So we all contributed to their code and tested for performance and made benchmark tests for them. In case of Flare, Flare is their SDK, their development tool is not free. It's a separate product from us. Eventually, that makes the difference with Yogurt 3D because we are a free open source application, and they are trying to sell their tools, which is not available yet. It's not open for sale. You have to email them or something to get the software for now. They have some beta phases online, but it's not their tool. Their sandbox is not quite yet out there.
You also have to mention Unity 3D.
Yeah.
Probably you're familiar with Unity 3D.
Yes.
The flash output of Unity 3D, have you heard of that? Flash output? That they are giving flash output?
It's my second question, actually.
Actually, Guran did the initial work for Unity.
Yeah, we tried to.
We did the first implementation to Flash of Unity engine. So we're very familiar with Unity engine also, and we see the differences and complications. So you can talk about Unity comparison with Yogurt 3D.
In the first stage, when they announced Stage 3D, we looked out there for other solutions which we can help with our expertise, other companies, and maybe use their own codes. We talked to Unity about it. We made some very heavy benchmark tests for them, and we actually convinced them to get Flash exports. But after that, they didn't want our help and directly went to Adobe, cutting us out of the loop. But in the case of Unity, if they try to give you a fixed pipeline, like if you are a big, 20-person studio, you have to do something with Unity, you always get limited with the sandbox. To get Unity's source code, if you want to implement it directly, is 200,000 euros. So you don't have source access, you have a limited sandbox, which if you want to do something nice and tricky, you have to write some C++ plugins inside of it. It's quite hard to use, actually, if that's the case.
For something like Zynga or EA, that's not an option. So
was that?
And Unity, not stable version, is able to support Flash Publish, I think. We are building games with Unity 3D, and I tested some of my codes for the publishing Flash player, and as I can see, it's not stable.
I guess it's in the beta stage. They just released it, I guess, like 4 months ago. They even had a competition of Flash games.
Yes, yes.
But as you see, they're not like AAA or big, long games. They're all small, one scene sort of games. I can't not comment anymore about Unity, I guess.
Thank you.
They're working on it. Their arrival, yes. But their business plan, marketing solution is much more different than ours. We just give out the technology. It's the technology is there because we use 3D in our other tools. So we didn't want to sell our 3D technology directly. We just wanted everyone to access it. So that's why it's open source and free. We have a question over there. Was the same.
Are you planning to develop a toolkit for Yogurt 3D, or like your own toolkit?
We are thinking of building a scene editor, not a total sandbox. We don't want to cut out the developer from the loop. We are planning of a scene editor, like a level editor, for the designer to build up the level of the game. But the initial programming probably will be used by other tools, and so developers could write business logics.
And sorry.
Mobile is kind of uprising right now, so it's going mobile. But we were in San Francisco like 2 months before, and do you want to tell the story of the PSP Vita?
Yes. It looks like for the game scene, the consoles are going out. Nobody wants to buy consoles like Vita or Nintendo. They're not going to be continuing their old business model of selling cheaper consoles and then expensive games. Now, when you now go into any game shop in the Silicon Valley area, you see them selling Android tablets. So all the kids are now looking for Android tablets because in the play or in the game application store, you can reach 130,000 independent games made by indie developers or others. So this is our, of course, belief, but it can be wrong, of course. But it looks like the development is now going very fast to the indie developers, and it's going globally everywhere around the world. People are producing for Android and the iOS platform, and more on Android platform. So we see more games free or cheaper games like $2, $3. Although the makers are not really making money out of them. Only a few big players like Rovio are making money, but the small developers, little developers are not making money. So this is another problem that we want to address. So we have another tool, another product called Yogurtistan with a virtual global game currency or virtual currency in it. So we are addressing this other big problem.
Thank you. So it's very nice. My question is really about how open it is to other technologies when you hit a limitation and then you want to go over this limitation, which is basically in every technology like this or accelerator or all the things which are supposedly portable. So let's say you bump into a specific module that you want to integrate, and it's written in Objective-C or in Java on Android only, and then you want to integrate it in a way that you can benefit from what you're doing, Flash, and this one, and maybe it's only going to run on iPad and iPod because it's an Objective-C and you don't want to rewrite it. How do you deal with that? Because in your case, you're still dependent a lot on what Adobe can provide you, and what's the backdoor, basically?
Okay, when you write action scripts, you can compile for a Swift to put on a web, or you can compile it for Air, which can go on mobile devices or smart TVs or desktops. Air has an internal system called native extensions, which you can write native code depending on your platform. So you can write iOS codes to get the accelerometer working with your game. And you can use that native extension anywhere. So there are online native extensions ready, which you can find online for any device. So even if you're writing ActionScript, you can access the powers of Objective-C libraries or Java libraries in Android devices. I haven't heard any for the desktop platforms, native extensions, but probably it also supports C too in there. Like you can execute any codes.
Okay. So Adobe basically provides that. That's a good thing. And so when it goes to graphics, because you mentioned that, so how GPU support, and so how do you write shader? Is it GLSL? Is it a more standard thing? Is it something else? I don't know. When you want to go to some like deep pixel-based shading or classic type of stuff, like you mentioned OpenGL 2, can you go down to that level in a way that you're fully then dependent on OpenGL 2 by opposition to Direct3D or something else, like native, basically graphics code?
Inside the boundaries, you can do anything, but your limitations are also like you can only use 7 textures on fragment shaders, not more.
Yeah, but for example, that's a very good example. Like, let's say you want to do your own anti-aliasing or your own depth of field, or you want to have more than 7 textures for some reason. Basically, you want to go down to the guts of whatever GPU stuff is going to be used in your device. So if you can have access to low-level OpenGL 2 and with your own GLSL writing, nobody stops you from doing that.
Yeah.
So is that something that open enough so that if you want, when you hit a wall, and if you want 50 texture for some reason, you can do it, but then you're limited to the type of device, but still you can, or you're just totally closed on that?
Flash has a really tight sandbox, security sandbox, so no. The definitions are constant for now. In the future, they may change it, but they don't promise it. Even you don't have some logic operations inside that shader language, so no for loops, no if conditions, nothing like that. It's simple plain assembly, and they are going to keep it that way until they solve the security issues. Like if you have big, huge shaders working on the GPU, you can just crash it. And the last thing Adobe would want for developers to crash clients' website with a banner. So the limitations are really strict. So that's it. There's no way of overriding those limitations.
Just last question, and then I'm done. So, is it a problem for you, or do you see that as a good thing?
No. I would say we have the graphics of 2001 running 2011 and 2012. It's coming a bit late, so there are really good real-time rendering strategies like deferred shading and stuff, which all engines use right now for AAA games. We cannot do those, but people are playing Farmville. Like there's 60 million people playing Farmville. They don't want that AAA effect. So if you're doing something portable, something fast, and you want to reach everyone, you can just do it this way. Because truly, if you made an application and forced the user to download that game, the download rates and acceptance rates gets lower. Like even you could do Java to do 3D graphics, Java applets, and they got 75% of denial in the first security yes and no question. So Flash helps you with that, but it's not in the stage to make AAA games yet. It's graphics all 2001.